the Jobseeker bonus, and skipping meals. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian.Heise and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I have my morning shine of coffee that I'm working through, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from the ABC because, well, it seems to be repeating a trend that I'm seeing everywhere, more and more in the media. Whenever there's a discussion about welfare, whenever there's a discussion about people hard done by, whenever there's a strategy to portray a victim in the media, they always make reference to skipping meals. Always make reference to skipping meals. Because apparently humanity has throughout all of our history, all ancient history, even when we were hunter-gatherers, we've always had 3 square meals a day. Always. Yep, 100%. And those 3 square meals were always filled with sugar and other rubbish. Throughout all of history, definitely. It's just ludicrous. It is just ludicrous. Let's go have a look at this. And honestly, I feel sorry for people who are, obviously overweight, unhealthy, and at risk of becoming, if not already pre-diabetic, portrayed in these situations, because frankly with the dietary advice that we get nowadays, you get addicted to this crap and you just eat it again and again. Sometimes skipping food for a few days is probably the only way you can get off that wagon. I know I rag on vegans a lot, and but one of the good things about a clean vegan diet, at least for a transition, is that it helps you get off all the sugar and the hidden stuff. And just look up Lutzig, everyone, if you're interested, just how much sugar is in things and how your body actually processes it, because it is not healthy. But I'm noticing this more and more. Are we such a weak nation now that the idea of even having to skip one meal is just so shocking to people? Just before we even go on to that, just think about that. Do you think hunter-gatherer societies, all the civilizations, all the nations, do you think they ate 3 times a day? No, they didn't. They did not. That's why we're so good at storing fat. It's for long-term use. But nowadays, the concept of even skipping one meal, maybe to save some money, or, it's portrayed as something unfathomable, unbelievable, and it's used again and again and again. In some ways, it is not surprising to me. It's probably because of the whole low carb down under tangent I've gone down, where once you become keto adapted, you can just forget to eat because you realize your appetite doesn't need to kick in so often, but you're satiated a lot faster with the food you're eating. I mean, the stuff here they're probably eating, look at this, just carb rubbish. It won't have the same satiation as other meals. But aside from that, I think it's just an interesting undertone that we're seeing more and more, where the idea of even skipping a meal is just beyond, it's just painting a victim. How can that ever happen? And this is where these articles are designed to create an emotional response and to manipulate people into thinking a particular way. Let me know what you think in the comments, everyone. I mean, how many of you are on OMAD, 1 meal a day, intentionally using intermittent fasting to increase cellular autophagy, to throw your body into ketosis, and to get a better outcome? I know a lot of people have more energy, feel healthier. It gets rid of, well, in some ways it can help control insulin needs in the body. It's fantastic, but it's not even discussed. Anyway, let's have a look at this. Over the past few months, life has changed profoundly for single mother Mandy Weber and her teenage daughters Olivia and Mariah. They can eat 3 meals a day. There you go. That's something they couldn't afford to do before the pandemic. Supplement added $550 a fortnight to Miss Weber's welfare payments. Now, I just think that's utter rubbish. I know when you have very low income, it's hard to buy in bulk. It certainly is. And that can spiral into a trap. But how much does an egg and some rice cost? And that can become a meal. It doesn't cost much. For 3 people, a cup of rice. There you go, a bit of butter and salt. For a few dollars. Sure, it's not the most nutritious thing, but it is a meal. We're skipping maybe 2 meals a day, she said. Breakfast, we wouldn't eat, and lunch, the girls would just not take anything to school for lunch. We'd eat dinner early, and that would pretty much be the meal for the day. So a lot of people do that as intermittent fasting. You know, I've gone through periods where, well, for health reasons, I'll just avoid eating for a few days to get a fast going. Or I'll do one meal a day and just eat once a day. That's not the end of the world. But I'll make sure I'm satiated for it. Before the pandemic, money was so tight, many things most consider essential were out of reach. Even shampoo, conditioner, cleaning products, Miss Weber said. All of that, they're all luxuries that you don't have the money to buy normally. Those luxuries include warm clothes for school for Olivia 16 and Mariah 15 in Brackus Marsh outside of Melbourne, where winter temperatures approach freezing overnight. You can get cheap clothes from an op shop. It's not for dollars. For dollars. Am I the only one that has noticed that? You can go to St. Vinny's if you really are desperate, and people will donate clothes to you. A lot of churches will too. Shampoo, just shave your head. I know women can't pull that off, but it is a bonus. Miss Webb lost her job as a chef not long after the pandemic shutdown and is not eligible for Jobkeeper. She doesn't know when she'll be able to return to work. So she was employed. And the poor lady didn't start. Another example of someone who didn't put anything aside. It's just people are well, they're probably living so close to the edge because everything's so expensive these days. They're finding it hard to stash something aside. That could be the example as well. It's a huge relief, really. It brings joy that I know the girls can go to school and can be at their best at school. It feels normal. I really hope and pray it never goes back. So she's talking about the supplement, the additional payment. The survey finds the pandemic supplement makes a huge difference. I bet it would, because frankly, the emergency support mechanism for the Jobseeker, it's not designed to be a UBI. That's not the intention of it. It's designed to keep you going, to keep people out of destitution. It's pretty bloody close. It's below the poverty line, but it's not meant to be something you can live off forever. Am I mistaken in that argument? But the thing is, we're now in a culture where people aren't taught any financial literacy, not even to put little bit aside. Not even to just, every week buy another shampoo bottle and put it away so you've got it there for hard times. Ms. Webb's experience reflects the results of a new survey from the Australian Council of Social Services. Nearly 1,000 people received the supplement, were asked in May about the impact it was having on their lives. 83% they were eating better. 75% say they were able to catch up on bills, and 69% said it was easier to pay rent or they were considering moving to a better home. I guess moving to a better, but it's not. Why would you? Maybe I'm hoping moving to a better home means going somewhere that's going to be cheaper and more affordable, and using this money to help bridge that transition. That's what I'm hoping. Am I being naive in thinking that? Are people going to take this extra money and not realize that it's potentially only a temporary payment and then upgrade and then get stuck with more trouble? Which argument do you think they're saying there? Those results aren't a surprise to Danielle Wood, the Budget Policy Program Director for the Grattan Institute. What we know is that people on Jobseeker were essentially living under the poverty line, Ms. Wood said. So they showed very high indicators of financial stress. Pre-pandemic, the Jobseeker payment, then known as New Start, for a single person with no children was $565 a fortnight. Many people on the payment also received rent assistance of up to $140 a fortnight, and that's a total of $705 a fortnight in support, still well below the poverty line of $914. Well, is my understanding the idea is that this is a supplement to additional resources you have. Ms. Wood said returning to that level at the end of September would bring severe economic consequences. So has the introduction of the supplement reduced your anxiety about money? And 51% say yes, substantially. If we were to revert back to the old rate of JobKeeper, we would have 2 million people see their incomes almost halved overnight. What I would like to see is a more gradual transition of payments, of bringing down that level. I mean, I honestly, I think it's quite cruel. I think it's quite cruel giving people this money and then just snatching it away. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's very unfair. People are going to get used to it. People are, as we're seeing in this article, they're adjusting their lifestyles by getting better homes. I think either it needs to be transitioned down slower, or other mechanisms need to be put in place, or they just need to increase it. And I think there's discussion of increasing it to that level. But the real problem is, if it's at a point that's too comfortable, some people won't take the burden of working. Because, work is work. Some people hate it and don't enjoy it. And if you have to work 40 hours a week for only a small relative change to your spending capacity, a lot of people aren't going to do it. So then, of course, there'll be more pushes to up the minimum wage or up this or up that. And the problem is that'll lead to unemployment. It's a never-ending spiral of people being essentially trapped into poverty, to be honest. Trapped on welfare. Because it's stupid. You wouldn't work 40 hours a week for the whole year. For what, only $6,000 more a year? Would you do that? Oh, maybe some people will. Depends. If you enjoy your job, yeah, then you would. So finding the right gap. There are reasons to reduce the rate eventually, Ms. Wood said. Right now, it's at the same level as the age pension, which is designed to sustain people for decades. And from a policy perspective, she said, it's important that when the economy recovers, there's real incentive for people to find work. And she's right. That's what I'm concerned about. You want to maintain a reasonable gap between the level of minimum wage and the level of income support, she said. You want people, when they get a job, to see their incomes increase. In the cost survey of the pandemic supplement recipients, 84% of respondents said they would struggle to pay the cost of essentials if the extra payments was ended. University student Freya Pollard is one of those who's worried. Her youth allowance payments doubled to $1,100 a fortnight. If it does go back down, it's really a debate of whether I want to eat or pay my bills, the 22-year-old said. Cut your bills. Cut your bills. Simple. Get rid of luxuries. Get rid of luxuries. Ms. Pollard lost her part-time hospitality job because of the pandemic shutdown. Before that, she was struggling to pay her rent in a share house. She lives with severe osteoarthritis and pays $50 a week for private health insurance so she can undergo hip replacement surgery more quickly than she could in the public healthcare system. Okay, so she's paying extra. She's paying $200 a week, or $200 a month to private health insurance. I mean, we have public health care. That's her right to choose, but should she complain about that? Is that a necessity, everyone? Not having to wait. I mean, complaining about paying for the private system from social support, this argument doesn't make sense to me. If the payments go back to a level that I can't afford to do that anymore, they're going to mean cutting back on necessities like food and electricity, she said. What do I prioritize? Do I stop seeing my psychologist because I need a hip replacement, or do I stop paying my bills? Last week, the ABC reported the federal government was planning to boost Jobseeker payment permanently, although it was not known by how much. Okay, so this poor lady that they brought in this article, she's obviously got a whole series of, she's got some issues. So now, no groundswell for increased welfare. The Australian National University professor Matthew Gray said there was a developing narrative that attitudes about social welfare are changing due to the pandemic. But he said research suggests the shift may be less pronounced. The university's Centre for Social Research and Methods tracked the attitudes of 3,000 Australians before the pandemic arrived in Australia in January and in the midst of the pandemic in May. When respondents were asked about putting more money into the hands of the poor in January, 57% agreed that would be a good economic policy. By mid-May, the figure actually dropped slightly to 56%. There was no groundswell for increased social welfare support. And yet we keep having article after article about poor such and such not being able to eat 3 meals a day. Not being able to afford their private healthcare. Wait till we see one about, this job seeker bonus isn't allowing me to negative gear my 4 investment properties. It's outrageous. I'm being facetious, but wait and see. What would happen if your payment was returned to The alt-right, no impact. I've got no trouble covering essentials. A small impact, it will be a little harder. A significant impact, it will become much harder to cover the cost of essentials. An extreme impact, I will not be able to cover the costs of essentials. So why are some people better at it than others? Perhaps some people don't realize what essentials are. This is the thing. This is the thing. It can become quite humbling to realize what's a luxury and what isn't. We had a strong economy for many years, up to quite recently, Professor Gray said. And I think that's led to quite a strong view that unemployment is a personal failing rather than you're unlucky. At the same time, the ANU responses suggest healthy support for extending Jobseeker and Jobkeeper payments beyond the current level, beyond the current 6 months. In mid-May, nearly 60% of respondents said they thought that would help fix the economy. Would it help fix the economy? People seem to be drawing some distinction between what you might see as a pandemic response and a broader question really about living standards of the poor, Professor Gray said. Ms. Webb hopes the extra $5.50 a fortnight she gets from the supplement continues, but she's already bracing for it to be cut back. She has a simple message for the government about what that would mean for her and her daughters. Come and spend a week in my life. Come and view my bills. Come and view my bank account. Come and check my cupboards. Come and see what my kids and family go through, she said. Please don't reduce it. I want my kids to have a future. Wow. Maybe they... Here's the thing. You get a politician to go there, maybe someone who's actually been through some hard knocks and go, okay, sell that, sell that, sell that. Don't need that Xbox. Don't need that. You know, cut down your food. Get rid of that luxury. Why are all these lights on? Go to the library, save money, don't go out. You know. Or am I being too harsh? Am I doing my old blame the victim again? It's just the narrative about people not being able to eat I find quite, well, particularly when you've got people who are quite obviously over a healthy weight level, and frankly most Australians are, most of us are. You know, I managed to lose a fair bit of weight just through dietary changes, and then learn the reality of all the food that we're eating. She'd probably save some money if she eat healthier. You know, there's a way to do it. What do you all think, everyone? Do you think welfare should be jumping up? Oh, there we go. 74% would skip meals without a supplement, when most of them probably need to anyway. Is that too harsh, everyone? Am I getting annoyed at, you know, saying people need to skip meals? I mean, come on, what type of a nation have we become? We really have become soft. You know, we can't even handle a recession. You know, people are afraid to skip meals. What do you think, everyone? What do you think? I think it's going to be humbling. This is going to be an interesting few years. It's going to be a generation that knows what tough times are. It'll be good, in some ways. We'll have to see. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time.